Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for entering into the spirit of that, ladies and gentlemen. Some very welcome funds for Childline there. I said you're in for an enjoyable evening, and we'll get that started shortly. I'm always glad when the bum season comes along, because it means that Christmas is over. And I hate Christmas. I've hated Christmas since I was a child. That was because I believed in Santa Claus. Now, unfortunately, so did my mother and father. So we get hee-haw. And what was even worse was they used to send me to spend Christmas with my grandparents. And I hate cemeteries. So it was a bad time for me. I think they had it in for me because I was a bedwetter as a child. Right enough, my mother cured that. She got me an electric blanket. Only did it once after that. Shocking. Just like that gag. But I did say, ladies and gentlemen, earlier that you're in for a superb evening of entertainment. We start with the principal toast of the evening. The Immortal Memory, and to propose that toast, it's my very great pleasure to welcome Cameron Goodall. As you're about to discover, Cammy Goodall is a larger-than-life character. A former soldier, he's now one of the busiest private tour guides in Edinburgh. He's also heavily involved in the production of the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo, and still manages to find time to host the world-famous Taste of Scotland show at Prestonfield. He's a leading authority in Robert Burns. He's performed Burns in rhyme and song throughout the world. He's the chairman of Edinburgh Burns Club, a member of the Bowhill People's Burns Club. He's a friend of Ellersland. He's a Bolton bachelor, and he's the band master of the Crochallan Fencibles. All of that, I think, makes him ideally qualified to propose the toast to the immortal memory of Robert Burns. Over to you, Cammy.
Thanks very much, Willie, for those kind words. I'll have to live up to them now. As Willie was saying there, I am a tour guide, and in actual fact I had a tour today. So I think I'm probably the only person in the world to have arrived at a Burns supper in a kilt and get changed out of it. But that was my want this evening. Because to wear a kilt's nothing particularly special for me, you understand. I wear it most of the time, and of course, Burns himself wouldn't have worn a kilt. This has nothing to do with the gentlemen who have chosen to wear the kilt. Thoroughly support it. Well done. You're showing your knees, and that's always a good thing. But just personally speaking, I prefer to wear a pair of breeks if I'm going to a Burns supper. And this has to do with my military training, because we always wore trousers whenever we came to the Burns supper, because this is what we called our falling down gear. You know. You don't want to put a kilt on if you know the state that you're going to get into before you go of an evening. Well, I'm pleased that this evening finally arrived on us. I assume that most of you were planning to come along here in January. Certainly so was I, but obviously the snow was terrible that day. I have to say, my wife sat at the window for most of the day looking wistfully through it like this. Eventually I'd had enough of it and I had to get and let her in. That path wasn't going to clear itself, do you know what I mean? We've a bit of a topsy-turvy relationship, my wife and I, because I'm more or less the homemaker in the house now. My wife, she's the one who goes out and earns the real money. She's a paramedic, she's a very busy woman. Personally speaking, all I do is blether to people, which is a great way of supporting the family, I have to say. It's absolutely wonderful. Now, for those of you who have been to a Burns supper before, usually you'll get someone who'll stand up to give the immortal memory, and they're going to give you chapter and verse on Burns' life. And to be honest with you, that whole thing bores me dreadfully. And if you've been to a Burns supper before and been bored by it, then I thoroughly sympathise with you, ladies and gentlemen. But for those of you who have come along who would feel a little bit shortchanged if you didn't hear Burns' life, I'm going to give you it very briefly based on this kind of scholarship that I've heard over the years about Burns. This is the sort of thing that you'll generally hear when you come to a Burns supper. Born 1759 in a shitty wee farmhouse in Alloway, goes to the school, moves to a slightly larger shitty farmhouse, works in the fields, catches consumption. His father then gets a moderately sized shitty farmhouse. Burns joins the Masons, and then his father dies, so he chips in with his brother to take a fairly big shitty farmhouse just outside of Mauchline. Does a lot of shagging in rural Ayrshire. Writes a wheen poems, and then he goes through to Edinburgh to see what shagging's to be done through there. Then a wee shagging tour of the borders, away up to the Highlands, does some shagging. And then settles down with the best shag in a shitty wee farmhouse. Joins the excise in a mood of crushing all those who live in shitty farmhouses. Fathers about 1,000 weirns, the last of which his wife gives birth to while he's giving the nurse a rattle on his deathbed. Now this is more or less what you're likely to hear at a Burns supper, and as I say, the whole thing really disappoints me awfully, because Burns is an extremely complex individual, and you can't judge any great person really by the acts. You know, Burns lived the life that he had to live, given the start that he had in life. You know, he was born into fairly straitened circumstances in rural Ayrshire and really had to pick himself up by the bootstraps. And it would take really a generation after Burns died before an artist could properly support themselves just on the earnings of being an artist. That didn't come during Burns's life. It's a horrible thing that it didn't. If he'd just been born maybe 20, 30 years later, he really could have supported himself. But at the time, you really needed a patron. And that hurt Burns a great deal. It was something that he struggled with all his life. It was something that he struggled with when he saw how hard his father had to work and how things just were taken away from him at the end of it. And it's no surprise that the very first poem that he published in the Kilmarnock edition was the Twa Dugs. And there's a great wee vignette in that, where the tenant farmer has to appear before the factor, and he says, "Oh, how they maun thole the factor snash. He'll stamp and threaten, curse and swear, apprehend and pin their gear while they maun ston, wi' aspect humble, and hear it all in fear and tremble." You know, it's something that Burns definitely railed against. He hated this attitude of the farmers of the time, of the great farming squire of the time, who just let out small parcels of land. And to be an Ayrshire farmer was a hard thing to do. And William Burns probably worked himself to an early grave in fear and trepidation over a legal proceedings which was being heard through in Edinburgh. I felt like old David McClure had become his factor on his farm at Lochley, and the case was heard by Lord Braxfield in the Court of Session in Edinburgh. Now, Lord Braxfield was the hanging judge. He was a very, very stern man. He said of one particular plaintiff, he said, "You're a very clever chiel, but you'd be named the warrior good hanging." This is the sort of fellow that we're talking about. He was an extremely stern and taciturn individual, but here he found in favour of William Burns, but a little too late, and he was carried off with probably tuberculosis. Certainly it was doing his consumption at the time, but probably died of tuberculosis. A lot of that had to do with the strain that he was put under as a farmer, and Burns really struggled with this. He struggled with it, and of course he moved into his farm with his brother, and almost the death of his father seemed to be a weight off of his shoulders. And suddenly he was free to write the sort of poetry that we remember him for today. Now, the life of Burns was more or less a game of two halves. Really, right up until he's about 30, most of what he's writing is poetry, and then thereafter, most of what he's writing is song. And Robert Louis Stevenson was to chastise Burns for this. He said, "Why did he waste half of his life writing songs. You know, for him, the art of writing a song was very, very secondary to the art of writing the sublime poetry that he was capable of. And tremendous clarity of vision for the human condition had Robert Burns, tremendous clarity of vision. But tonight, since we're here for the NSPCC, I thought I would investigate in particular Burns's relationship with his children, with the children that he fathered, not all of whom were to his wife, unfortunately. But of course, this was a pre-prophylactic age, and he wasn't a bad-looking chap, you know. He had a fairly good tongue in his head. It's no surprise that the lassies were thoroughly in love with him, you know. I feel his pain. I have to live with that myself, you know. But you know, even if we were to take in face value all of the sexual relationships that Burns is purportedly supposed to have, we still only have 16 sexual congresses, which is reasonable. You know, it's a good innings, but it hardly puts him in the Snoop Doggy Dogg kind of category, does it? You know, I mean, he's not Frank McAvenny, is he? You know, he's doing decently, shall we say, but no more than that. You know, so I think sometimes it's a little overplayed, and there was a very unfortunate letter which appeared in the press from Liz Lockhead, who was our previous macker. She's been replaced in position now by another lady. I'm trying to remember. I was sat with her just the other week, but I can't remember her name for the life of me. But Liz wrote a letter which was unfortunately misrepresented in the Herald and one or two other newspapers, where she does make a comment about Burns's his attitude to women being slightly Weinsteinian. And I think that's an unfair thing to say on Burns. You know, it's catching the zeitgeist of the moment. You know, we want to address these things. There's no doubt about it. We all want to address these things. But Burns was generally very, very, very tender, very tender. We've got no kind of proof whatsoever that he ever tried to force his affections on any women. He didn't really have to. You know, he just offered it out there, and the women seemed perfectly happy to accept him on face value in this. And I'm going to sing a couple of songs for you here, and these are songs. Now, a lot of Robert Burns's songs we have come to know to a different melody to that from which it's written. And I think a lot of this has to do with Edwin Morgan. The poet Edwin Morgan said that we had made something of a messianic figure out of Robert Burns here in Scotland. And I think there's some traction in that, because we kind of make him the national hero that I think we crave, you know. We try to make him an attainable hero. Let's make him a bit of a drinker. Let's make him a bit of a shagger. That way, perhaps, we can do all right in that regard. But Burns is so much more. And I'm going to sing you a couple of songs here, and I'm going to sing you them to the tunes that they've come to be known by, and then I'm going to sing them to the tune which Burns wrote them to. And one of them was written on a lassie called Jenny Cruikshanks, who was the daughter of the Latin master, or the classics master, I should say, at the High School of Edinburgh. And Burns stayed with the Cruikshanks for about 3 months or so in St James's Square in Edinburgh. And he was really taken with Jenny. She was a 12-year-old lassie at the time, but she was a wonderfully accomplished harpsichordist. And he saw in Jenny a great beauty, but a great purity as well. And he wrote a wonderful song called A Rosebud by My Early Walk on her. And we've come to know this to a melody which goes, a rosebud by my early walk, down a corn enclosed bog, say gently bend its thorny stalk, all on a dewy morning, which is lovely. Thank you very much. You're very kind. It's a beautiful melody, but I think it's important sometimes to hear songs sung to the melody to which they were intended, because it gives you a completely different prism through which to view them. So this is the tune that was intended when he wrote the song. A rosebud by my early walk, I do not corn and closed balk, say gently bent its thorny stalk, all on a dewy morning, ere twice the shades o' dawn are fled, and all her crimson glory spread. Aye, and dripping rich her dewy head, it sends the early morning. Quite a different song when you hear it. We could be here all night. Quite a different song when you hear it sung to that particular melody. Very, very different. It changes your mind entirely about what the song's about. The first one just seems to be about beauty. It's quite vapid. It's quite sort of, there's no tenderness in it almost. Once you've heard it to the melody to which it was intended to be sung. Because here, your attention is not on the beauty of the rosebud, but on its fragility. About the fact that it is a rosebud. It has not reached fruition. It just has the potential to get there. Quite a different thing. So this is one song. Another one is a song which he wrote on the occasion of getting his very first girlfriend pregnant, Elizabeth Payton. And unfortunately, Bessie found herself wee-weeing out of wedlock. And he wrote a song called Wha My Babby Cloots Shall Buy. Now, babby cloot is a nappy. So who's going to buy my nappies? Who's going to take care of my child? And this, the tune which we hear it sung to most frequently is, "Oh, my babby cloot shall buy, oh, will tend me when I cry, oh, will kiss me where I lie, the ranting dog, the daddy-oat," which is a lovely little lullaby. Isn't it? You can just imagine a mother singing this to her child as she rocks her, as it turned out to be, in her cradle. But of course, this wasn't the melody that Burns intended for it. The melody that Burns intended. Oh, wha my babby cloot shall buy, and wha will tend me when I cry, wha will kiss me where I lie, the ranting dog, the daddy oats, wha will mount the creepy chair, wha will stand beside me there, Gee rabba lass name there, the ranting dog, the daddy oats. A lot more joyful, isn't it? So, that changes your mind entirely about the song again. You hear that, and he's saying, you know what? I couldn't give a damn what you think. This is love. This was love. It's pure and simple. He wrote a wonderful song later on when he fell in love with a lady in the Globe Inn in Dumfries, Anna Park. And it was a very improper song where he's talking about his extreme love for Anna Park. When he was already married, he'd been married to Jean Armour by this stage for about 3 or 4 years regularly. And people are saying, you can't publish this, Burns. This is seditious. So Burns writes another stanza to it, in which he says, "The Kirkin State me join and tell, today sick things I canna. The Kirkin State can gang to hell, and I'll gae to my Anna. She is the sunshine o' my ee, to love but her I canna. Had I on earth but wishes 3, the first should be my Anna." Isn't that wonderful? I don't give 2 figs what you think. This is a lady that I care very greatly about. And his wife, Jean, supported him in this to an extent. She said, "Our Rab should have had 2 wives." And when the child finally came along to Anna, Jean brought her into the house, brought her up alongside the children that she was raising at the time, also Burnsian's children. But a tenderness, even for children that were just in his care in a peripheral way. He wrote a poem called The Inventory to a friend of his, Robert Aiken, who was writing, looking for taxation for various different things, and some of the things they had to pay for were carriage beasts and for servants and what have you, you know. So he was trying to say, look, I've got none of these, Robert, you know I've got none of these, so don't come looking at me for my fiver, I'm not giving you it. And he says, for men of 3 mischievous boys, run deals for ranting and for noise. A godsman ain, a thresher tidder, we davok hodged out and fodder, and I and Sundays duly, nichtly, I on their questions targe them tichtly, till faith we davok's grown sae gleg, though scarcely higher than your leg, he'll screed you off effectual calling, as well as ony in the dwelling. He's caring for these children. He's caring for these children under his care, and none more so than the kids which are springing for his own loins. When later on he had to take up a job in the excise, it pained him greatly that he's having to do this menial work. He should be being supported as a poet. He says, he writes a letter back to the Reverend Dr. Thomas Blacklock. He says, well, what do you think, my trusty fear? I'm turned a gauger. Peace be here. Per nation quines. I fear you'll no disdain me, and then my £50 a year will little gain me. Ye gleek glaesome dainty damies, wha be Castilia's wimpling streamies loup singing leave the pretty lummies ye ken that strang necessity supreme as man's sons amen. I hae a wife and 2 wee laddies. They maun hae bros and brats a diddies. Ye ken yoursel, right proud my heart is, you needna vaunt, but I'll sned besoms and throw soft woodies afore they want. He said he'll do the most menial tasks in order to take care of his family. And this is what drove Burns on. I want you to really concentrate on everything that Burns represents for Scotland, ladies and gentlemen, because it's not unusual for countries to have great poets. It's not unusual for countries to have great songwriters, or for them to have someone who collects all the national melodies and lays them down so that we know how our national voice is supposed to sound, or even people who say everything wise that there is to be said in their mother tongue. Here in Scotland, we have something unique in a single individual performing all of these roles. Now, on the face of it, you might think that to write a song and to write a poem are exactly the same skill. Not so, ladies and gentlemen. I charge you to go away and take a look in any search engine you like. Try and find me another poet who is also a great songwriter, or vice versa. And Burns is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the greatest of hundreds of wonderful poets that we have in Scotland. But he is also one of the most successful songwriters in the world. In the world. He wrote the second most sung song in the world after Happy Birthday to You, Auld Lang Syne. It is sung everywhere, everywhere. And you don't get an appreciation of this here in Scotland, exactly what we have. It's something that needs to be treasured, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why we gather every year to events such as this, just to make sure that we keep his memory alive in our hearts, because we owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to charge your glasses if you've not already done so, and rise up onto your feet to drink with me a toast to the immortal memory of Robert Burns.
Thank you very much indeed, Cammy, for that memorable Immortal Memory.